Good evening and welcome to From the AD's View. I'm your host, Dr. Cedric Brown. Today's guest is Dr. A.J. Anderson. Dr. Anderson, um, tell me about the state of college football right now.
Hey, Dr. Brown. Thanks for having me here. I tell you, it is a mess. That's what I have to say. Thinking about the college playoff, this being the last year for the four year, the transfer portal. There's a lot going on. Florida State not getting in. It's a mess.
It's a mess. Okay, well, then tell me about the excitement in the NFL right now.
You know what? It's really exciting because it's a lot of parity, some a lot of new teams, and stories of a lot of backup quarterbacks. Got a young quarterback, C.J. Stroud, and Houston playing really well. The Kansas City Chiefs aren't playing as well.
Right.
I hate to say it, but the Baltimore Ravens are playing well, but the 49ers are, I really think, the team to beat this year. But it's really exciting in NFL right now. I'm a big football guy, so it is a lot of excitement. And the Cowboys, for all those Cowboy fans, they've been playing well, and I know they lost to Buffalo, who's really hot. So it's exciting because you never know who's going to win from week to week. You get a different Super Bowl favorite.
These topics and more on From the AD's View. Let's get it. Welcome back. Before we get started on the show, I'd like to give honor to God, who's the head of my life, because without Him, nothing that I do would even matter, right? And we welcome back Dr. A.J. Anderson to the show. And Dr. A.J., you are the associate professor and sport management coordinator at Bowie State. You've been assistant AD. You've been an associate head coach for football, coaching at schools like Albright College, St. Francis University. Um, Young man, you have multiple talents. You've done multiple things inside of athletics. Um, Coach college football, played football. Um, First of all, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show. And Dr. Anderson, what is the state of college football right now, man? It's kind of crazy.
It is. It really is. Like I said, it's a mess. And we go back to the the college playoff, and we had the drama with Florida State, who now is, I believe, suing the ACC because they want to move out of the ACC without penalty.
Mm-hmm.
So it is really tough, and having the 14 playoffs, and I think Alabama, when they beat Georgia, that kind of threw things out of whack. So that was tough, and now we are moving forward to next year when they have 12 teams. So you had a couple teams upset this year with Georgia and Florida State. And next year you're gonna have teams 13, 14, and 15 upset because they didn't get in. So it's definitely a mess, definitely challenging. And then, we have all these teams going to these two conferences. So it's really going to be, instead of the Power Five, it's going to be the Super Two conferences with the Big Ten and the SEC. So that's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. And then moving forward with the 12 teams. So how many teams are going to go into the playoff from those two conferences?
Sure. And speaking of that, right? We've always had the Power Five, right? We've had the Pac-12, the Big 12, ACC, SEC, and the Big 10, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
now, because of and I think that it's one conference in particular that is running the show, and it's just my opinion. I
Mhm.
think the SEC is running the show, right? Because this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and those powers down there in the SEC, right, from commissioner all the schools that are there, they make big money dollars in college football, TV revenues, um, NIL with their collectives and things like that. Do you see the as you see the change, Dr. Anderson? Do you see it becoming something like from 5 conferences down to 2, maybe just the SEC and the Big Ten?
I don't know. It's looking it's looking that way, and so I think that with most of the Pac-12 gone now, or essentially the whole Pac-12 conference is gone except for the two teams, and most teams are in the AC or in the SEC or the Big Ten. So that makes it seem like, all right, well, there's only two conferences. So and really, it's going to be the two conferences that I feel really matter. So you have the Big 12, where there were some of the Pac-12 teams that have gone on and moved over to the Big 12, but it's going to be, I think it's just going to come down to those two conferences. Those are the two conferences that has all the top teams in.
So then what does that do for, because college athletics in its infancy, right, in the purity of it, was all about protecting amateurism, right? Those types of things. So if you eliminate other schools, other conferences, right, does that hurt the student athlete? Does that limit opportunities for scholarships and things like that? Because you look at it right now, we have the FBS, right? You have the Power
Mm-hmm.
Five. Well, I'm gonna call it Power Four now, and I should try to
Mm-hmm.
mark that. So the Power Four, and if you don't have money to keep up with SEC, Big Ten, right? You're going to have to what we call sunsetting some sports, right? You might have to go to a 2-6 model, football, basketball, and then get other six to average those out because of equity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Football carries has 85 scholarships, and then men's basketball has 13 scholarships, right? So if you have roster sizes of 20 on basketball and 100 on football, then you have to find women's sports to average to equal those numbers, right? For the equity, the access for the women's sports. Does that hurt student
You
athletes?
know, um, I think ultimately it can, but I'm hoping that NCAA and institutions become creative in how they can manage this. So, we look at it as football is king. That's where the big money is, and that's where you start to see this shift here. And for me, I probably need to do a little bit more research, but I want to know, are all sports going from these institutions? Take, for example, like Oregon, they're going into the Big Ten. Now, is every sport in at Oregon going into the Big Ten? So I know that definitely money plays in a role. So plays a role in that. You think about the non-revenue sports. So yes, so you have football and basketball, your revenue generators, but you look at other sports, whether it's softball, baseball, gymnastics, volleyball, different sports. And I just think athletic directors, presidents, universities have to be creative to be able to um, pay for, be able to support teams, those non-revenue sports. And, I think there could be some men's sports that could get cut from a Title IX aspect, just to make sure that they can fund now. Hopefully, with these decisions, that everyone has enough information to say, okay, we can make this, and without cutting sports, without being able to sacrifice our gender equity. So hopefully they're bringing in enough money, these contracts that they're making, that they don't have to sacrifice student athletes and programs.
Well, I think that is probably going to work in that FBS model, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in that FCS model where you have mid majors, low majors, right? That those revenues just don't
No.
exist.
No.
right? Because if the state is not funding, if the institution isn't funding, where's the revenue coming from? If you don't have a deep pocket, somebody, like an AJ Anderson, or somebody like, the producer of the show, Leon Thomas, with the
Leon.
deep pockets, right? You know, what are you going to do? So, and I asked that question again at that lower level, could it potentially be a burden, you know, uh, for student athletes because they may have to eliminate sports in order to continue sports, right?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think there's going to be the haves and the have-nots, and it's at the
Absolutely.
FB level as well, and at the FC level, the mid major level, you may have some schools that can't afford to, that has some donors and areas that they can supply some NIL money, but
Hmm.
obviously it won't be at that level of those FBS athletes. So I would like to think that there will be more athletes, more teams, more universities on a similar playing field
Hmm.
as opposed to like the group of five. And I just don't think there's going to be a lot of parity at the FBS level, as opposed to the FCS level, where everyone, I don't think a lot of folks at the FCS level have those deep pockets.
Right, right. And so we're in bowl season right now, right?
Mhm.
They kicked it off last week, and
Yes.
today's a long list of bowl games going on today. Florida State is in a legal battle right now with the ACC. One, because they want to be able to have the freedom to go somewhere else and do something else, right?
Hmm.
The revenues and those types of things. Um, should Florida State have gotten into the football championship playoffs?
You know what? We had this conversation a couple weeks back, and you look at it as, all right, do you want the best four teams in, or do you want the most deserving team? When you look at most deserving, yes, you can look at Florida State and say, yes, they should be in. They are a Power Five champion, ACC champion, undefeated, did everything they were asked, not a blemish on their record. Now, are they a top four team? No, I don't think so. Especially with that backup quarterback. And I do think that last year's national championship with TCU being blown out, I think that could have played a factor in it too. Is they don't want to see a championship like that, or if they get into a situation where one of the semifinal or the championship is not a good game. So I
Hmm.
think that played a role in it. But I would be highly upset if I was Florida State, but I don't feel that they were a top four team, especially without Travis, without their quarterback. So it'd be, were they deserving of it? Yes, because they did everything they were asked to do. But were they a top four team? No. And I mentioned before is I still think Georgia was a top four team, but I get it. I understand they lost the championship, and as well as I think Alabama is a really good team, but they couldn't jump Texas because they lost the head to
Texas
head.
beat them head to head. Right,
Yeah, so they
right.
lost it head to head. But I think that Georgia, and my personal opinion, I think Georgia and Alabama are better than Texas. But because Georgia beat, or Georgia lost to Alabama and Alabama lost to Texas, so I understand what the committee had to do for that.
Right, right. Well, I on the other hand believe that they should be in because if Nick Saban, my opinion, if Nick Saban had been on Florida State, they'd have put Florida State in the college playoffs. But
Or
you know,
Deion Sanders too. If Deion Sanders was at Florida
oh
State,
yeah,
they'd probably let him
absolutely, absolutely,
in.
absolutely. But hey, AJ, stay with us, right?
Okay.
I have to take a brief break, and we will come back. You're watching From the AD's View. I'm your host, Dr. Cedric Brown. We will be right back after this break.
Water. It's everywhere. We drink it, we bathe with it, we cook with it. Coffee's made with water. Toilets won't flush without it. It's used for washing clothes, dishes, utensils, pots, pans, floors, and our teeth. Plants and crops need water, animals drink it, and fish need it too. And don't forget, we can have a lot of fun in the water. Water. What will we do without it?
From the creative team that brought you The Browning Project and Dead by Morning comes a new thriller that will change the way you look at white-collar crime forever. Falling from the Sky.
I'm Leon Thomas with the Leon Thomas Group. Podcast, virtual events, webinars, streaming shows, and so much more. We want to be your partner in all things virtual.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Before we get back to our special guest, Dr. A.J. Anderson, I want to share with you a little bit a book that I wrote, How Black Men Overcome Racial Barriers in the Status Quo in NCAA Institutions. The focus of the book was more in trying to understand how African-American men achieve leadership roles in Power Five institutions, as we've been talking about, in the first segment of the show. The three themes of the book, the benefits of role models, right, and how they influence your career, the expectations that the role models have, giving you assignments, having you work through different scenarios, and working on different projects. And then the last one was the perceived racial barriers, whether they were real or perceived, sometimes imagined. But the read is very easy. I think it's informative. You can go to Amazon.com and get the book. It's in hardback. It's in paperback. You can also get it in audio if you prefer to do that. If you would like to see more episodes of From the 80s View, go to cmbrown.org. That's my website. And you can see all past episodes of From the 80s View. If you'd like to learn more about the professional services that I provide, also go to cmbrown.org for that information. And then finally, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, I'm always looking for different perspectives. I'm always looking for different views on From the 80s View. Go to cedricmbrown.org and email me, and then we can have a conversation, and then we can see if you can be a guest on our show. Our show does appear Sundays at 6:40 Central, 7:40 Eastern Standard Time. And then you can also click on my YouTube channel at Dr. Cedric M. Brown. If you subscribe to that channel, you'll get more exciting and informational topics on From the 80s View. But let's bring back our guest, Dr. A.J. Anderson, and my brother from a different mother.
Yes.
Dr. Anderson, man, in all of our conversations and dealings with one another, we've always agreed that in the work that we do, right, it's all about two different things. It's about student success, whether it's athletics or whether it's, you have a young man that's helping produce our show today, Mr. Anthony, that has recently graduated from Bowie on Thursday, right? What does it mean to you? And we'll get into the second topic in a second. What does it mean to you, Dr. Anderson, to be able to be impactful and influential over students and student athletes, knowing that student success is a big part of it for student athletes and students, and then for the student athletes, the overall experience of a student athlete? What are those? What does it mean for you to be able to have that impact and that influence?
First off, I believe my purpose is to help others, to serve as a leader, to mentor, and role model, as you had mentioned, talked about in your book. And that is something that the part of the reason why I came to Bowie as a professor here and the program coordinator. So the impact that I try to have on our students is what makes me feel good inside. So once again, and I tell my students all the time, Anthony knows this. So I'm in my career. So what I can do to help them reach their goals, and I can serve as a resource for them, is what's most rewarding for me. I look at my past years when I was coaching, and to have student athletes, former athletes, call me and ask how I'm doing and how things are, and or ask for me to write them a reference letter. That's so rewarding, because that means that I impacted them in a positive way. So whatever I can do to impact people, to impact young people, especially young males, but females as well, that is where that's most rewarding for me. So when I talk about success, yes, I do want to congratulate all of those students who did graduate, especially at Bowie this past week. It is so rewarding to watch those students walk across the stage, get their degrees, and continue on their career, their pursuit to their careers. In our particular case, in careers in sports. So it is so rewarding just for them to be able to reach their goals, and me be a part of that.
Right. And then here's a part about it. When you sit down and you're in your cap and you're in your robes and things like that, and then they walk across stage, you find yourself going, they're like, Dr. Anderson, you all right? Yeah, man. I got a little something in my eye, man. I'm all right, But because they are, in a sense, that extended family now, right? You have, nieces and nephews and and surrogate children and things like that. So I'm really happy for you, Dr. Anderson, with everything, and to have one of your proteges be a part of what we're doing right now is just awesome, man. So thank you for that. But let's get into this NFL, man. This NFL, right? So full disclosure, I'm a Giants fan, and my Giants are terrible. And the Giants have to play the Eagles twice, not once, AJ, but twice, 2 times. We got to play them, right? The Eagles have the easiest schedule left, right? Cowboys have the toughest schedule left. Who wins the NFC, AJ? Who wins the NFC East?
Ooh, man, that's gonna be tough. But I think the Eagles will pull this out. I'm not a fan of either, right, but I just think that the dynamics of the Eagles, with Jalen Hurts, I think he's definitely a stud quarterback. Yes, they've lost some games, but defensively, the offense that they have with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, they're going to be solid. I do think that they will win the AFC East. Cowboys are good. Dak Prescott's having a heck of a year. CeeDee Lamb, the defense with Micah Parsons, they're playing well. I think they'll be a playoff team, but I think that the Eagles will prevail in the East.
Okay. All right. I'm glad you picked the Eagles, because my brothers and all 4 of them will be watching this show soon. I'm not a Cowboy fan at all, right? I'm a Giants fan. Um, who's the MVP in the league? I want to hear this from Dr. Anderson. Give us the skinny. Give us
I
the
don't
tea.
know. I listen. I don't know because you're hearing Lamar Jackson. You're hearing. I think always Patrick Mahomes is always in the running. But you got to look at Christian McCaffrey as well. With the 49ers, he is just a dynamic player. What he brings
Balling.
what he brings to a team is something like no other. And what he's done this year and just throughout his career, I think he should be in the runnings because he's very talented. And I'm just trying to think of who else would be a top candidate. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one.
I think you hit him. I think McCaffrey is one. I think Jackson is one. And what Jackson is doing right now is a little crazy, right? Because he's the dynamic quarterback. He's the athlete.
Yes.
He's going to use his legs and things like that. That young man is standing in the pocket and he's throwing that thing around like darts, at the local pub. And I don't know if a lot of people are giving him enough credit for doing that. Now, he's going, first look, second progression, he's checking down things. And then when it comes time, now he's acting like Superman. You know what I mean? When he first came in the league from Louisville, it was all Superman. I'm getting ready to go do my thing, right? But we all know that being a quarterback and playing to that level doesn't get you very far, right? What about Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant? What about him with San Francisco?
Yeah, you know what? I definitely think he's a really good quarterback in the league. Has done
Not MVP
well.
though.
Not, I don't see him as an MVP. I think that he has done tremendous. He's making the throws, doing everything that he needs to do, but I don't see him as being an MVP candidate.
If San Fran goes to the Super Bowl and beats the Baltimore Ravens, is he the MVP of the Super Bowl?
Depends what kind of game he has. If he throws for 200, 250, but CMC has a great game, it could be him. But a lot of times, they give it to the quarterback. But I think that it depends, man. It depends on the game. If he goes out and wins it, which you can see if he wins it or not. But it could be. But I would say if there's anybody on that team, I would definitely say CMC.
Okay, so Kansas City. To be the champ, you got to beat the champ. Not playing as well as they would like to play. How much does the Taylor Swift effect have to do with their play? Is it a burden? Is it a factor at all?
I honestly don't think it's a factor. That's the news story. That's what people want to talk about. That's what they want to say. But at the end of the day, it's just some of the guys just aren't making the plays. That's what it comes down to. And understanding the NFL, like teams are good and coaches are smart. They make adjustments. And where in the past those receivers were making plays, catching the ball a lot better.
A lot of drops.
Yeah, and they're not doing it this year. And, you still have Andy Reid there. You still got Patrick Mahomes. You still got Kelsey. You're going to hear all that noise about Taylor Swift. But at the end of the day, it's just they're not making the plays. But you can't count Patrick Mahomes out.
At all.
That's how I feel.
At all. The young man is dynamic. As we close the show out, AJ, as I ask every guest this final question, what does faith, AJ, mean to you, or spiritualness or spirituality? What does that mean to you?
Well, I'll tell you, man, that is, I walk in faith, and I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for my spirituality. And
Hmm.
this is something that even more recently I've been trying to grow closer to God, and be in my book more. And every morning I read my daily devotionals, because all things I can do through Him. And I truly feel that Jesus is my believe He's my Lord and Savior, and um, He helps me get through so many things.
Hmm.
I give Him credit when I do well. I also give Him credit too when things that I'm going through, the struggles, and that's what gets me through days. And my prayer, just my random conversations. So my faith is strong, and I want to continue to grow in that and in my faith. And you say I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't have my faith. So I thank my mom from starting me at a young age, who
Hmm.
got me into the church and Sunday school. And um, I think I started to walk away and turn my back at some point, but good thing that God is a forgiving God.
Forgiving and understanding.
Yes. So and welcome me back home. And it's something I just want to continue to grow and learn, and talk to others as well. So I'm not perfect, but um, I'm okay with that. But I just want to continue to grow in my faith.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the prodigal son returned also, right? And when he
Mhm.
returned, um, he had a brother that was a little envious because, hey, I've been here. I've been doing what you asked me to do, Father.
Mhm.
And at the same time, the father loved both of his children equally, right?
Yes.
And that's what God does for us. Dr. Anderson, if someone wanted to get in contact with you to talk or receive mentorship or anything like that, how can they get in contact with you?
They can use my LinkedIn, and you can just go on LinkedIn. It is AJ Anderson EDD. You can find me there. Please reach out, message me, and I will get back to you, and we can start a conversation. Whatever I can do to help support, I am here. So please reach out to me through LinkedIn.
That is awesome. Dr. AJ Anderson is our guest this evening, and I really appreciate you, brother, for coming on and being a guest and sharing your wisdom and dropping the nuggets and everything. So I appreciate you. I
Thanks for
appreciate you,
having me.
AJ.
Thank you for
Absolutely,
having me. I appreciate you.
absolutely. And as we close the show, all I want to do is I want to thank the student athletes and the students, getting through the first semester or your last semester for you graduates is a fulfilling accomplishment, right? Those that are graduating, congratulations. Those that have finished your first semester, congratulations as well. You can do it. You can be like your cohort, the men and the women before you. You can do it. And to all those that graduated in December, congratulations. Be steadfast. Keep your eye on the prize. Do the things that have made you successful thus far, and take those things with you as you progress towards your goals in your career. I'd like to again thank Dr. AJ Anderson for being on the show this evening, and I'd like to thank you all for tuning in and viewing from the AD's View. I'm your host, Dr. Cedric Brown. Good night, and God bless.